Hello everyone, how are you doing? So wherever you are, welcome to our today's news from Yemen. Be with us. Yemen's Houthis announced maritime embargo on Saudi Arabia. The Iran-backed group's military spokesman said it will begin immediately and was retaliation for a Saudi blockade of ports and airports in Houthi-controlled northwestern Yemen. He gave few details about the embargo, but a Houthi media official said they were closing the Bab al-Mandab Strait, the Red Sea southern gateway to Saudi vessels. In response, Saudi Arabia Foreign Ministry condemned the allegation, vowing that the country will take all necessary measures to protect its ships to accordance with international law. Second tanker in 3 months hijacked off Yemen by suspected Somalian pirates. Yemen Houthi launched missiles at Saudi Arabia after strikes on Sana'a airport. Potential Houthi threat to Red Sea shipping could further damage global economy. The Red Sea has become crucial for oil shipments from Saudi Arabia during the US-Israel war with Iran, which has led to effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf. It comes a week after the most significant escalation in largely dormant conflicts between the Houthis and Saudi Arabia since the informal track took effect in 2022. The Houthis said they had launched missiles at Aba Airport in southwestern Saudi Arabia in response to airstrikes on Sana'a airport that they blamed on the kingdom. The strikes were claimed by the Saudi-backed Yemen government, which said it had wanted to prevent an Iranian plane from landing in capital without authorization. Yemen has been devastated by civil war that began in 2014 when the Houthis ousted the government from Sana'a. The conflict escalated in 2015 after the Saudi-led coalition of Arab states intervened in an attempt to restore the government's rule. The fighting has reportedly more than 1,050 people dead and triggered one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with more than 22 million people in need of some form of aid, according to UN. He announced that the group had decided to respond by declaring a maritime embargo against the criminal Saudi enemy based on equation of an eye for an eye. Sharia did not provide any further information about the embargo, but the deputy head of the Houthi media office, Nasruddin Amer, wrote on X that the group's forces were closing Bab al-Mandab to Saudi enemy's ship. A regional map showing key Middle Eastern and East Africa shipping lanes, Dix Purple Line traces major maritime routes passing through 3 highlighted checkpoints: the Suez Canal in Egypt, the Strait of Hormuz between Oman and Iran, and the Bab al-Mandab Strait between Yemen, Eritrea, and Djibouti. Surrounding countries visible on map, including Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and others. A distance scale shows 200 kilometers up to 200 miles, and a small inset globe marks the regional location. The map is labeled with shipping lines. The Bab al-Mandab Strait, in 32 kilometers wide, 20-mile waterway located between southwestern Yemen and the Horn of Africa. It connects the Gulf of Aden with the Red Sea, which is linked into the Mediterranean by the Suez Canal. Soon after the start of the Gaza war in October 2023, the Houthis began attacking merchant vessels in Red Sea and Gulf of Aden with missiles, drones, and small boats, saying they were acting in support of Palestinians. 4 shipping were sunk, 9 crew members were killed, and commercial traffic through Bab al-Mandab hit a record low as shipping companies routed their vessels around southern Africa. Although the Houthis paused their attacks in response to Gaza ceasefire last October, the number of transit through the straits has yet to return to previous level, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. In response to situation in the Strait of Hormuz, Saudi Arabia has diverted more than 70% of its crude exports to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. About 400 million barrels per day have been shipped for there in recent weeks, compared with about 9,073 a year earlier, according to data for KPL and Signal Ocean. Total petroleum volume transiting Bab al-Mandab also rose to 7.4 million in June, and about 7% of global output. Muhammad al-Bashar of the US-based risk advisory firm Bashar Report said it was not yet clearly whether the Houthis will begin targeting vessels heading to Saudi Arabia. 10 killed as Russia attacked on merchant ship in Black Sea intensify. The death toll of Russia's strike on a cargo ship off the coast of Ukraine city of Odessa has risen to 10. The Guinea-Bissau flagged ship was hit by Russian cruise missiles on Sunday, the Ukraine Air Force said, causing a fire. As such, a rescue operation was launched and lasted all night. By Monday morning, Ukraine seaport authorities say 9 crew members had been killed, as well as of its pilots, including later said 4 of its citizens died in attack. Among the victims were 4 Indian nationals, the country's foreign ministry said, adding that endangering crew members of impending freedom of navigation. It's deplorable and should be avoided. Foreign flagged ships like the Golden Leo exploit Ukraine's lasting remaining maritime export corridor to transport cargo down the Romania and Bulgaria coastline and onwards on Turkey. Maritime exports account for over 2/3 of Ukraine agriculture export for a value of roughly 9 billion, an initial source of revenue for Kyiv. Fighting in Black Sea was a settlement for most of the 4.5 years since Moscow first launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. While Ukrainian ships were unable to move further than area surrounding Odessa due to Russia's control of much of the coast, Kyiv's drone forced Moscow to keep its assets safely tucked in its naval base in the eastern Black Sea. Despite the constant shelling, Odessa remained a prime holiday destination for Ukrainians. Keeper said early this morning that air raid shelters had been set up in 40 beaches in the region which were open to public, but warned that seaside locations could be particularly dangerous because drones and missiles are often launched from the sea. For its part, Ukraine too has wrapped up its attack on Russian assets in Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. On Monday, Ukraine's Draw Force Commander Robert Provi said 183 vessels had been struck in July, while this figure has not been independently verified. According to the UN, June saw its highest number of Ukrainian civilians killed and injured since April 2022. At least 293 civilians were killed and 1,990 injured. For its part, Kyiv also continued to hit logistic facilities and an oil depot in Russia's Moscow region. Sergei Sobyan, the mayor of the Russia capital, said Kyiv has launched 400 drones towards the region overnight on Monday. Although most were shot down, local authorities later said 10 people had been injured as a result, and local authorities in Russia Belgorod border region said a Ukraine drone strike on bus had killed 5 people, including a child, on Monday. Ukraine has not yet commented. That's all for today. Thank you very much for you to being with us. Bye bye.